Hello, welcome to Crafts for Kids. I'm Jann, and today I will share a craft project with you that's inspired by apple season. We love apples, and it's a beautiful time of year. There's a bounty of apples to eat. They are so delicious, and they're also fun to print with. If you take half an apple and coat it with paint, you can print with it, and it makes a lovely image. And I'll show you how to do that. The first thing I printed was a lunch bag. Just natural paper. I used hot pink poster paint and a vibrant green poster paint on this natural paper. And I think it's really cheery. I would love to have my lunch in a bag like this. The other project is a wreath. I do have great fondness for wreaths. They add so much charm to a room. And this one has a fresh design approach to it, I think. I printed on red paper with the same color paint. I'll show you the back of it. See how it's red? So there's a variety of paint colors and a variety of paper colors. And what I've done is cut out the print and then use glue dots to add it to the base. The base is made from a paper plate that I've cut the center out. So I show you how to do this. First, I want to recommend that you always protect your work surface. This is an old cardboard box that's been flattened. It's even on top of something else that's protective. It can be a garbage bag, it'd be whatever you want, but that's important. The first step is for an adult to cut an apple in half, nice and cleanly. And then I've poked it with a fork to make a nice handle. You can print with it by holding the apple. But I've had that slip, and it made a really big mess. You don't want that. So this is very comfortable. It can be a metal fork, plastic fork, anything. And the other thing, if you want to make a leaf, like I did, this part can be cut off the other piece of apple, just like that, and it makes a beautiful leaf. So we have those to work with. The paint, as I mentioned, is poster paint. It can be acrylics. Those work really well. You can also paint the apple with a foam brush. This has a nice straight edge that makes a good coating on the apple. You want a generous amount of paint, but not too much. You don't want it to drip. The other idea is to take the apple and then squish it around in the plate. I've used paper plates here. You can use an old plate, an old tray, anything you like that would be good for this. So the first thing I will do is make this. I'll put this aside. I'll take a paper bag here, and I'm going to show you how to coat the apple. So I'm going to bring the paint a little bit closer. And I'll take this apple right here, and I'll coat it with paint. And I tend to work from the inside to the edge, because I want the outside to print. Although it won't, every print will be different. And this is a little bit messy, but poster paint washes off pretty easily. So I don't recommend painting the walls with it though. Okay, now I'm going to stamp it. And I do put a bit of pressure on there. And then pull it straight up. And there's the apple print. Now I'm going to do a leaf using this little piece. And this time I will squidge it around, probably because it's more fun, and then just make an apple leaf print. You can do 1 leaf, 2 leaves, 14 leaves, whatever you like. So that is your lunch bag. Now to do this project, I'm going to print on paper and then cut the prints apart. And I'll work on white, just as a change of pace. Remember, you can have any color paper you like, and right now it'll be white. So I'm going to paint the apple again, like this. You probably will have to coat it each time you make a print, depending on how much paint you put on. And again, this foam brush works like a charm. And I'm going to make a print and press it down. Give it a good press. And then lift it straight up. And I have a print. Now, just out of curiosity, I'm going to try and do another print without painting it again, just so you can see the difference. And that's not bad. So I'll show you what it looks like. One print, I got a second print out of it. Sometimes that'll happen. Now I'm going to add the leaf. And for my wreath, I do like to print an apple with one leaf and an apple with two leaves. And if you want to go back, you can go back. There. Okay, that is done. So here are the two apples. Now I'm going to do 6 more, and with the magic of television, I have done it already. So the next step, I can get the paint out of the way, is to cut these apart. It's easier to cut them in sections. I'll show you what I do. This is much easier than just trying to cut one apple out of the whole big sheet. Then I cut them apart like that. And that way I can make sure I don't cut the leaves off. And then I'll take one of them and cut it out. So I'll leave a little border around it. As you can see, because I used white paper here and red paper on the first wreath, this one will have a different look. All good. By the way, the apple you choose can be any apple. It can be big, small, pointy, round, whatever you like. They all work. So here's an apple cut out. I will just put these aside because I have cut some out already. And that's a good thing. So I'll show you. This is the base for your wreath. It's made from a paper plate. And I'll show you how to cut out the center without using a craft knife. You need an inexpensive plate because we want to bend it. And then you crease the middle of it. It just helps make it easier to cut. Take a pair of scissors, and if you can see this embossed line right here, it might be hard to see on TV on your screen, but I'm going to cut right on that line. And this goes pretty easily because it's a thin paper plate. And then open it, and you have the wreath base. I painted it yellow. I used acrylic paint for this. And here it is. So the next thing to do is to take your prints and place them on the wreath base, however you like. I just sort of eyeball it, look at it, and see what I think. So that's 6. I think the space is too much, so I'm going to add one more. And I think that's looking pretty good. And what I'll do is I'll attach it with a glue dot right here. I'll attach all of them with a glue dot. So we'll set this aside. And then here it is, the finished wreath. I hung it with a piece of ribbon. You need at least 12 inches to make a nice loop. And there you're good to go. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a lot of fun crafting with apples. I look forward to seeing you again. Please come visit. Bye-bye. Hello, welcome to Crafts for Kids. I'm Jann, and today I'll share a craft project with you that's inspired by back to school. It's a time for new books, new lessons, possibly new teachers and classmates. Also, pens, pencils, markers, little scissors. And I think it would be super fun if you had a wonderful place to store the really small items like the pencils. And to me, a pencil case would be great, especially one that you have decorated yourself. I will give you a couple of ideas that you can either do yourself exactly like I've done it or be inspired to do something totally different. So the first one, don't be too scared, is a green monster. It's a happy monster though. And he is painted with, well, it could be a she, I guess, with fabric paint. And fabric paint lets you wash this if you wish to do that. Now, if that's not a concern, you can use acrylic paint. That works just fine. So let me show you how to do this. And on the reverse, I did a pink monster. So you can use different monsters. You can have the same monster on both sides. So it's up to you. But I will start with a green monster. I use a permanent black marker, and that works really well. I'll do a smiley face, which is just a line actually. And then I'll do two eyes, and they're somewhat round. I don't know if monsters have perfectly round eyes. They might have different sized eyes. If you want to make a perfect round, you can trace around the bottom of something like this or around a coin. And I would recommend doing that in pencil first, and then you can go over it with a marker. Now this monster has a few teeth. These are triangles, if you notice. I'm going to do 3. And they're kind of uneven. And then you've started your monster. The next thing I like to do is paint the eye color. And I like cotton swabs to do this. You can use a brush if you want. But this works so well. And just dip it into paint. And then you'll see it makes a nice, you can easily make a nice round. See how easy that is? And I'll dip it in paint again to make the other one, the eye color. Any color you like. And that makes a wonderful round shape. The next step, I do use a brush for this, and I think you can use either size that appeals to you. And I'll start painting the interior part of this monster. And there's a couple of reasons for doing that. One, it's easier to get to paint this first. And I'll go around the teeth and around the eyes. And through the magic of TV, I have done that. This is kind of like a monster just like that. So I'll turn this over and show you the next step is to do a dot in the middle. I've chosen black. You can do any color you like. It can be paint using black and then, or the color you like, and dipping the Q-tip into it and then just putting a dot here. Or you can take this pen. So today I will do the pen. It doesn't quite show up as well, but you get the idea. I'd have to go over it a couple times. Anyway, the next step, since I've painted the interior part of it, I can continue using the brush to paint outside, or, which I'm going to do, or you can use a foam tip brush because it's a wider area. And I'll just paint part of this out to the edge. You always want to load your brush with a fair amount of paint. I've been told that I really overload the brush, but that's what I do. Maybe you'll overload it, maybe you'll do it just right. It always seems to work anyway. So it's fun to paint this. You can paint up to the zipper. Who knows, you might paint over the zipper now and then. Monsters are crazy things. And once I paint to the edge, preferably I would let this dry because I want to put dark dots on here. So you get the idea. I would do the whole section. Put this here. And I will use these famous cotton swabs again, dip it in a darker paint, pretend this is really dry, and then just dot all over because he's a dotted monster. So it's so much fun to do this little dotting business. Just heaps and heaps of fun. So you can be inspired by that or do it just like that. We'll put this one aside. And now I will show you how to do the pink monster, which I think of as sort of a giant piece of bubble gum. He's kind of scary a little bit. He's got fangs. So let's do that monster. Again, I will draw the outline. I've smeared a little bit of paint on here. everything's kind of messy, isn't it? I will use this marker again, this dark marker. The first thing to do is to do the mouth. It's a nice big mouth. He's just yelling like mad. I'm going to do 2 fangs, again, 2 triangles, and the mouth, which is 1 curve and then another curve. And then that's the mouth. Eyes. I've drawn 3 eyes. You might do 6, you might do 1. They're just circles. There's 3 eyes. And now I'll do the outside shape. So I'm going to start in this corner and do a curve. And then another curve. And then do a curve that goes all the way to the zipper and around to the other side. And then I'm going to do another little curve, because he's a very uneven monster, and then down to the corner. And there is your monster. This time, I'm going to do green eyes. And if you'll notice, the 2 main colors are green and pink. So that way you don't have to buy a lot of paint if you don't want to. I will use the famous cotton squab technique that I like so much. And I will paint the eye color. And it doesn't have to be perfect. And these eyes are going slightly different directions because I thought that was a lot of fun. And then you can paint this with the marker. I'll show you. It's not quite as dark as black paint. Or paint it black. So either way, you've got the start to that pink monster. Now, through the magic of TV, I've gone this far. I want to show you, paint a little bit on the outside. I'll take a different brush. I'm just painting slightly over the black line because I like to. And that's the thing about art, you get to do it the way you like. I'm going to leave these lines visible and sort of tone down the outside line. Actually, I like the way that looks. So you have choices. Cover over the line, cover in the line. It's kind of like coloring a book, isn't it? In the line, over the line, outside of the line. And you get the idea. So I would do the whole thing. And now, to make the little stubby things, just paint lines like that. And that gives him some character. So that is the monster pencil case. I will show you another idea. Since it is a pencil case, another idea is to use the end of a pencil and make polka dots. Once you start making these dots, you'll want to put polka dots on everything. At least I did. Now I've used several different colors here. What I want to show you is, I started with a light green, then I went to a dark color. Now I want to do an intermediate color, and the best way to do that is to take white and just a dab of the dark. It is much easier to tint the white paint than trying to take white and tint the dark paint. You'll end up with a bucket of paint if you try and do it the other way. I want it to be a little bit darker, so I keep adding paint. You'll see it's going to be a nice blue. And it's sort of in the same, well, it is in the same color family. So I know it's going to go together and look pretty good. So this is just another option. See how that's turning into a very pretty blue? Okay, I'm going to put that there. Now I take the end of a pencil that has, it can be a new pencil. You want it to have sort of a smooth edge. And dot it. See how pretty that looks? It is so much fun. And I think they all go together well. And when you're dotting, don't be afraid to go on the very edge, because it seems like the polka dots are expanding. And I think that's a nice thought. So that is your polka dot pencil case. And if you want, you can sew a pom-pom to the zipper, which I think would be a lot of fun. The last idea for your pencil case is to take painter's tape or masking tape and put it anywhere you want on the canvas. Inexpensive pencil case. I put it right in the center. I've used 2 colors. They can be your team colors. They can be your school colors. They can be your favorite colors. They can be any color. And again, it can be fabric paint or acrylic. And then, once it's dry, you remove the paint, and then you have 3 stripes. Now, in that middle stripe, you can write your name with fabric paint, or you can do something like put patches, fabric patches on. I found a dinosaur, this little flying guy, and you can either glue those on with fabric glue, find a non-toxic one, or it can be stitched, either way. And you have 3 different pencil cases to organize all those small things in your school. Thank you for watching. I hope you have lots of fun decorating your own pencil case. I look forward to seeing you again. Please do come back and see the next show. The next project will be totally different. Bye-bye. Hello, welcome to Crafts for Kids. I'm Jan, and today I'll share a craft project with you that's inspired by birthdays. It's a birthday crown made from a paper plate. I do like paper plates, and it's amazing to me that you can cut 8 points with a pair of scissors, and these points are not glued on. So there's 2 ways to do this that I'll show you. The first one is you need an inexpensive paper plate, and what I like about them is that you can bend it because we're going to cut it. And you couldn't do that with a really expensive plate. Those are great for eating other things. So here's a paper plate. We're going to paint this first on the back of the plate because the shape works best like this. Now these 2, here's 2 crazy colors, color combinations painting. I tried to think like a 2-year-old because they're going to be very passionate and they're just going to paint however they feel like, and it's all going to turn out well. The kind of paint is poster paint, acrylic. It can be something like this if you want to use a lot of different colors. Finger paint might work. I'm not sure. I didn't test it, although I would have enjoyed doing that. So I'm going to take this one and show you the magic that happens when I cut this. The first thing is to fold this. So we want the edges to meet. Already it looks different, doesn't it? And I'm really pressing this in the center. It'll just be a little bit easier later. And now I'm going to figure out where the middle is, just eyeball it, and then cut through to about 1 inch from the edge. And then you have these 2 points. So I'm going to start at this point and cut in the middle of this. Just my best guess. I don't think that it would measure exactly perfect. It doesn't have to be. And do the same thing for the other side. I'm going to cut to about 1 inch from the edge. So now you see 4 points. Then I open this, and there's a crease here and a crease here. I'm going to cut on those creases to make the last point. Starting at the point, I'll cut to about 1 inch from the edge. And this is pretty wild, as you can see. Then I carefully fold up each point. And if I haven't cut it all the way far enough, just give it another little snip, because that one wasn't folding up exactly right. Sometimes it's good to know how to correct something if it's not quite the way you want. Just fold up these points with your fingers. You can do it this way too, from underneath. And you might have to just keep folding it a bit at a time, and this one can come out a bit. And there you have a crown. And look how much fun those colors, which looked slightly mad before I cut it, But when you cut it, it just turns into this wonderful color group. I like pom-poms, as you can tell by the original. So you can put pom-poms on here. You can cut pieces of paper and glue. You can leave it just like this. Just whatever you'd like to do. Pom-poms and things like that are best put on with glue dots. I use 1/2" glue dots. You can also use hot glue. I recommend low temp hot glue. I don't use it very often, but for something like a pom-pom, which is really three-dimensional, you do need some sort of strong surface. If for some reason, I can't resist putting that on, if it doesn't fit, you can punch a couple holes on opposite sides and string an elastic cord underneath so that it goes right under the chin, or you can thread narrow ribbons and tie in a bow underneath. Just anything like that. So that's one crown. The other crown is painted after it's cut. And I'm going to review the cuts with you again, because you'll see it on a white paper plate. So I take the paper plate again, nice inexpensive flexible one. This is the center. We fold it together just like this, with edges meeting. And then we press down the center of it. You can also take a pencil or something like that and crease it if you want. What that does is make the crease more visible if you want to cut it there. Again, I'll just, my best guess as to where the middle is, and I'm going to cut down to the set of ridges. And then again, so I now have two parts. I'm going to cut starting at the point, best guess in the middle, and then do the other one like that, best guess, cutting it in the middle all the way to this ridged area, and then open it up, and now it's more visible to see these lines. And these are the cutting lines. So I cut here all the way to the edge, and cut here on this crease all the way to the edge. And then we have 8 points. Now I just want to show you, you can either paint it all one color, and I would do that before I cut the points, or you can paint the points different colors. You can use one color, 2 colors. I used 4 colors here. And then I kind of went crazy with the pom-poms, because I do like those silly things. And I will show you how to paint. This is a little bit more tricky. You have to be at least 3 years old to do this. And I put my hand underneath the point and just press it up a bit so I can separate it from the others. And then paint. And I find a brush, sort of a medium-sized brush, is easiest for this. And see, if I poke it up, my finger is underneath. I don't know if you can see that. It just holds it up a little bit, and I'll alternate. And this is how you can use just one color. If I could just do red, I could leave the other points white. Or not. You can use, since there are 8 points, you could do 8 colors, which you could do with paints like this, because they're not expensive to have a lot of different colors. I'm using acrylic paint right now. Poster paint really is nice and opaque as well. And opaque means you can't see through it as well. It's not like watercolor, which is a lovely translucent color. This is more non-see-through. So the last one, I'm alternating these points. Just poke it up a bit. Hold it down with your other finger if you need to. Some points don't behave, but we're going to take care of that. And paint the last one. I have to push that one down a little bit and do the last point. So there you have 4 points that are painted. Now, you can do stripes around the edge, or you can paint it solid. I think stripes are a little bit more interesting, just to keep it. And the fun thing to do here, the trick, is to move this away from you actually, because that way you have some white to hold on to. I'll just keep moving it away. And you'll see that even with one color, this can be a lot of fun. And you can put stickers on here. You can do whatever you want. You can also use markers for this. Markers will work. I think crayons might work. I didn't test it, but you never know. It's good to experiment. And I think that stripes, especially when you're using one color, add some cheer to this, so it's not so serious. I think this is fun. And when it's more simple like this, when you use one color, you can put a more decorative object on the tip, like a gold star I have here. I'll show you in a minute. I'm getting to where the paint I'm running out of. For the last little bit, hold it under your hand like that, and then you've done it. Pick it up like that and let it dry. And if you want to add another color, you know how to do it. You lift up the point underneath and paint it. And once it's dry, you can add stickers to add a name. You can add colorful things like a gold glitter sticker. When it's nice and plain, these kind of things really show up. And if it's multicolor, as I did here, you can do multicolored pom-poms. Thank you for watching. Happy birthday to everybody. And I hope you have fun making a birthday crown. Please join me for the next show. The next show will have an entirely different craft. Bye-bye.